one thing that's concerning is to see where we are today, where people, is it people? Yeah, I'm gonna say people. People are just lawless and everything, a lot of things that they're doing. I never thought I would be able to see the day where you can have a book that everybody's supposed to, it's supposed to be a guideline for people. And then you have people teaching the book as a guideline. The people that are teaching are doing just as bad as the people that they're trying to teach against the book that's supposed to be the guideline for their life. And it just shocks me that you have to get up close and personal with those people that are teaching to know that they are doing just as bad as those people that are coming to listen to them to get guidance from them about how they're supposed to govern their life, what they're supposed to do in their families, and how marriage is supposed to be. And you would think that the solution is going by the guidelines of the book, but unfortunately, a lot of people have taken that thing and twisted it up and kind of threw a lot of things out of the book and from the book into the trash. Like, oh, that doesn't matter. Paul was talking about that time, and so that doesn't govern us today because that was during that time. So if that's how we're going to be and how we're going to, what are we doing if that's not governing us anymore?
First of all, you had asked a question. It was something about what did you say? Do you play around with the Bible? Do you take the Bible seriously? What was your question? You had asked me something, something like that.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, they always made it like if you committed an act against what was in the Bible, that bad things were going to come upon you. And the funny thing about it, as a child into a young teen into an adult, you start to see that people who are doing bad things, that a lot of times there's no repercussions from it. So if they're teaching you about judgment, and it's like, well, if I can live my whole life doing all of these bad things and nothing happens to me, and the flip side is I can do all of these good things and still I don't get my reward, then what's the point, right? And you talk about the leaders and what they're teaching. Unfortunately, they're a product as well. Just like the people who are listening to these teachers, they're a product of what's been taught to them. And the word says that, we should be seeking understanding. I can remember growing up as a child reading school books, and I could read all of the chapters and still walk away without a true understanding. You have people who read the word, read the scriptures, listen to the word, and still don't have true understanding as to what it's really meaning. And we also look and say, hey, we see the leaders of the church and we're well aware of what they're doing, but they're still up there preaching. Nothing has happened to them. So, what hope is it for any of us if the very people who are teaching the word can't get it right? How the heck am I going to get it right? So there's a lot of problems and issues with what's going on today. And I believe what's been going on years prior, because like the saying says, there's nothing new under the sun. And it's going to continue because there are no accountability. We have made the leaders idols. No matter what they do wrong, we're still going to follow. And so there's a lot of problems, a lot of issues. It's not just one thing that you can point to and say, this is the problem. There's a lot of things commingled into why there's so many issues.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues, and that's why I'm at the point where, okay, we have, if you look online or go to any of these places, people are at each other. This means this and this means that, and this is this how you're supposed to do this, and you don't do this and you don't do that. If you're not doing that, you're not living up to whatever.
Right.
And this is where we have a conflict. But my thing is this: if you get to the point where you find out all these things and these arguments, you finally get to the truth, are you going to change your life today? How is it going to impact your life today? If you find out all those things are true, is it going to change the way you're treating people? Are you going to love people differently? Mm-hmm. Are you going to, love someone across the world just as much as you love your family, just like what it says in the book? That's the issue that we're having, is that we ultimately don't hold up to the two laws that were given to us, saying this fulfills the whole entire thing. Love God with thy heart, mind, and soul, and then love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two stand all the law. That's what we see today. And if we don't get that song could sum it up right there. But you got people arguing, but no, this means that, and this happened in this time, and Moses had 613 commandments, and it's just like, okay.
I think what we really need to focus on first is here.
That's it.
But you have a lot of people pointing at the leaders or the politicians or the celebrities or whoever it may be, and pointing out all of their flaws and what they're doing wrong. And it's like, have you first addressed you?
That's it.
Have you first addressed you? And I think one of the stories in the Bible is so beautiful, because it's the woman who was caught in adultery, caught in adultery by the religious leaders. And they brought this woman out amongst all of the crowd and confronted Jesus, and basically was like, she needs to be put to death. We caught her in the act of, adultery. She needs to be punished. And Jesus was very quiet, or what's his real name?
It depends on what.
I know. But he was very quiet and, basically said, ye without sin, cast the first stone. And when the woman looked up, there was nobody left. He said, where are your accusers, woman? And there was no one left. And this is where we are. We all have flaws, things we need to work on, but people are too consumed with what the other person is doing. If we collectively as a society said, you know what, I'm going to first focus on me, make sure that whatever I need to address, I address, and collectively we would move in the right direction. But like you said, right now, it's the social media wars. It's who is right versus who is wrong, whose interpretation is right versus who's not. Is the man black, white, green? Does this mean this? That was a point in time. This is different now. And then in itself, you have so many different versions of the Bible that has come out. And to me, I truly do believe when the Creator made us, we were complete. Everything that we will ever need is already inside of us, period. But the problem is we don't take the time to get to know who we are. And in getting to know who we are, you ultimately get to know the Creator. But we're too busy trying to see what P. Diddy is doing, or trying to see what's happening in this case and to that person, instead of saying, whoa, what's happening to me? What's happening right here in front of me in my household? But instead, we're fixated on everybody else, because you know what it does? When somebody's life is in disarray more than yours, you know what? It takes the focus away. You don't feel as bad about who you are if somebody's doing worse than you. And that's not how it should be. We should be out here really hoping that other people get it right as we strive to get it right. And right now, it is going to be the focus on what everybody else is doing. And don't get me wrong, I do believe, like a lot of people are saying, like, this is the time for whatever is done in the dark will come to light. And we're seeing it unfold. But you too better be careful that whatever you're doing in the dark doesn't come to light. Be careful, Like it says, the very traps that you set for somebody else, you yourself can fall into it. So I think right now it's the time for me, it's the time of truth. And the truth isn't just somebody else's truth, it's being truthful with yourself. Because that's the only way you can truly tap in and address what's wrong with you, is if you face your truth. Why am I acting this way? Why am I not pursuing that? Why do I feel this way? Why is my perspective always negative every time I go to do something? Why do I have so much fear? Why do I feel like I don't have control? Why am I battling with suicidal thoughts? Why do I feel everybody hates me? There's a plethora of things that we can address ourselves before we look at somebody else. So I believe it's this time for us to do a lot of self-reflection, to see what's going on with us and be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And
I don't know if it's the time, but is that the time or not? Because it should have been the time from a long time ago, was self-reflection, because that's all. Yeah. That was what the whole, pretty much the gospel is about, self-reflection. When you self-reflect, when you look into yourself and find those weaknesses and work on those weaknesses within yourself, you'll find the power within you, and then you'll find the scripture that says, "Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect." That means for all righteousness, truth, fruits of the Spirit, all goodness, all righteousness and truth. Like you said, until you get to those, it's like, why focus on someone else?
Yeah, and I think that is the true Christ consciousness. Oh my goodness, when you find truth, you find freedom, you find peace, you find a sense of belonging. You know, you have a better understanding of what your purpose is. Instead of somebody trying to define you or tell you what you should be, or coming up with these unrealistic goals for you to be held accountable for. It's like, when you know who you are, it doesn't matter what anybody else has to say about you. And let me be clear, it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt sometimes, but it's not going to take you to a place where what we're seeing today, so many young kids and adults committing heinous acts against themselves, taking their own lives, harming themselves or harming others because something has been said to them. So it's important to know who you are, and don't let the world or anybody else define who you are.
That's what trips me out today, is that so many people, if we go around and we fulfill our ministry just out in public and just talking to people individually, and it surprises me that so many people are not whole with the body, the mind, and everything that they have walking around with them every single day.
Now that is true oneness too.
They're not fulfilled in that. There's so many people feel like they are missing something, or they don't deserve better, and that is a shocker to me.
Or what they have is not good enough.
It shocks me that people don't look at themselves as worthy enough, and I think a lot of that comes from the old school teaching. Because the way I grew up is, many a call. If because you wasn't called, I was called, I'm gonna stand up here and teach to you. That means that's putting an intention in people's minds that I ain't good enough because I didn't get called. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely a lie. Mm-hmm. Everybody has every single person in the world has that something in them that they need to fulfill. But you will never get that answer until you like you said, be ye perfect as your Father in heaven. Find that wholeness, that oneness, the oneness, that unity within yourself. Not trying to be unified with somebody else. Not trying to focus on that first. Focus on unifying every member within your body.
But this is also why relationships fail constantly, because you have people who are broken individuals seeking someone else to make them whole, to make them feel better about who they are. And it's like two broken people are going to struggle. They really are. And I'm not saying the two broken people can't come together and find wholeness within themselves, but a lot of times this is probably why, relationships are just dissolving so quickly as they start. They're dissolving, and that's because we're too busy looking for someone else to complete us. instead of becoming whole ourselves. Looking in and saying, what is it that I need to address? Why, like I already said, what is it why I feel this way? Why do I view myself this way? Why am I so fixated on somebody telling me that I look nice today, or that I'm pretty, or that I have on the right outfit, or my perfume smells good, or, my hair is, why am I looking for that?
But that is the easiest way to get yourself into something that you are not supposed to be in when you're always looking for something outside of yourself. That is the easiest way. That's why so many people get into these in organizations or cults or any other thing that
it's a sense of belonging. Everybody wants to belong.
And that is a problem in itself, because now someone is telling you to do something and go here and do this and do that and do this and do that and do that, and you lose self.
Yeah, so true.
You lose self regardless of what somebody else says. You lose yourself. And, what changed me was when I got out of that, do this, do that, you got to be this way, you got to go here. And, people saying that, if you don't come here, you're going against God and you're of the devil and all this other stuff. Man, I silenced all that noise, man. I opened up the book for myself, took the book seriously, and it really opened me up to who I was. And I found something that a lot of people do not have in the world today. What is that? Peace. Peace, man. Peace. It's so good, man. It changed my life, and it allowed me to each and every day wake up and continuously listen to what I need to do each and every day. Not for me, for the Father. Period. It's not, most of us are doing things because this is what I feel and what I want for my life. And then you forget about, why the Father even sent you here to planet Earth and why he needs you. That's hurtful. But we always talk about, let's pray so God can do this and God can do that and God can do this and God can do that. But when it's time for you to do something for him, that ain't for me.
And I think that's the question in itself. What is do something for him?
What are we wrestling against? Okay, so if you understand what you're wrestling against, then you will be able to understand more of what everybody has a different purpose and objective.
Correct.
So everybody's teaching that, we wrestling against your flesh. This is what the problem that you have without in life. But Paul said, we wrestle not with flesh and blood. That means you become whole. The pureness of you is there. You don't wrestle with that no more. But we wrestle against principalities, powers, and spiritual wickedness in high places. When you get that and when you understand that, then you'll understand, let me listen to the Father.
But what is that? Okay, see.
No, I hit it.
No, I'm saying what is that? Because if you go back to when I was growing up, everything was spirit this, demon that.
Yeah.
It's like, you would hear people say, I got high cholesterol. The spirit is attacking me. I'm under attack. No, let's check what you've been eating. Yep. But everything is spiritual. Everything is demonic. And it's like, no, that's a way of not being accountable.
Right.
It's an easy way of dismissing your own behavior. When something bad happens, the enemy what enemy? You're your own enemy.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but anyway, I think about when bad things happen and everybody's just like, I just don't understand. We were watching something on TV and, a child went out and shot up some other teenagers. And, the parents were just like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. And it's like, really? You can't believe you knew your child had guns. You knew it. You knew your child was out in the streets running with other children who had no business out in the streets. And now you have your teenage sons, because it was two, shooting up a teenage birthday party. But somehow you're such in shock and you can't believe your child would do something like that. And it's like, but ma'am, did you know he had a gun? Yeah, I saw him with a gun. What do you think he was going to do with that gun? And then it becomes, oh God, how is this happening to me? You know, the mother is breaking down. Why? Because you failed to take action. Why do I have high blood pressure? Because you failed to take action. Why are my joints hurting me? Because you failed to take action and get that weight off of you. And I'm not saying it's simple. I got my own things that I have to constantly deal with. But here's the thing. We have to be truthful with ourselves first. Stop living a lie and saying, oh, I just have bad luck, or I'm under attack by the enemy, or, you know, the devil just wants these bad things to happen to me.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one right there.
I'm sorry. I've heard this my entire life, and I'm not saying that there's not spirits out there or whatever. That's not even, I don't even care. All I know is that I have to be responsible for my actions, or in times when I fail to take action, right? And there are things that just happen. You're driving down the road and some crazy person is driving and they're drunk and they crash into you and it had nothing to do with you. I'm not saying things like that don't happen, but there is a good percentage of things that happen because we fail to take action or do what we need to do. So let's distinguish between the two. But instead, in church, I felt like everything was a demonic attack. It was the enemy or what. And it's like, no, why are you going up there getting prayer? Because now you got to get some kind of transplant. God, I just need you to heal. I need the pastor to lay hands on me and restore my body. And then you leave right out of there, or you buy a grease pan from the church of all the soul food. It's like,
what? Plate?
Whatever.
You said a pan. But
well, some people will sleep with a whole pan. But, you know, it's like, come on, people, let's be realistic. And that's, again, being truthful to yourself. A lot of the things that happened to me in hindsight, I look at it and I said, a lot of it was in my control. You know, it was in my control. A lot of times my conscience, which I call the Holy Spirit, has told me, you may not want to do that. But guess what? I did it anyway. You know, who's really to blame for that? And it's not saying having a pity party, but it's just changing your behavior, being aware of when you're engaging in something that you know you shouldn't be doing.
Period. But, you know, now it's become, you know, I don't know if it just began now, but it may have always been that way where, you know, it's okay. Well, without them saying it is more like it's okay to do all these things that are not good for your body.
Because we all fall short.
Yeah.
We all fall short.
So it's kind of like it's okay, because then when you use that, it's almost like, you know, a person that is conscious is like, okay, what is the book for then? If it's not for us to find wholeness and perfectness and righteousness and truth and all this other stuff and, you know, overcome what they call sin and all this other stuff, why are we even teaching the book?
Well, I have a question.
It makes no sense.
If you knew that you had to go, if you were going to a doctor and you knew that this doctor had performed procedures and failed at it, or didn't pass the qualifications, or made so many mistakes, would you continue to go to that doctor? No. But we don't apply that when it comes to our pastors, our leaders of the church. When you know that this pastor has been married since he's been in the pulpit 3 or 4 times, that they have committed adultery, that they have done simple things, and it's okay.
Molesting little kids.
It's okay.
Little girls.
We don't require you to step down. There's no accountability. And it's like, how?
That's a man of God, though. That's a man of God.
How, when you have enough standards to say, I'm not going to put up with this doctor who has done all of these bad things, I'm going to go elsewhere. But when it comes to somebody who is supposed to be teaching you how to basically manage your life, you make all of these exceptions.
You know, and this is the thing, and we're gonna end it right on this.
Yes, because I'm not here to bash religious leaders. I'm not.
It's not about that.
Everybody is not out there
Yeah.
doing bad things.
Right.
It's a lot of good leaders out there.
Yeah, but the thing is, what we have to come to realize is, and what has been taught over the years, that man, we want to go to heaven, right? So if you want to go to heaven, do you go to heaven? How do you get to heaven?
How did you end with this question? This is not the thing.
This is not a question. This is not a question. I'm about to go. This is why I want to throw it out there. Like, they're teaching, everybody want to go to heaven, right? But you know, going to heaven, does it begin when you get to heaven or before you get to heaven? So the only way to get to heaven is through righteousness, truth, and the fruits of the Spirit and all this other stuff and overcoming sin. So if you're not doing it here on planet Earth and you're not beginning to be like your so-called heaven now today, how do you think you're going to go to heaven in the end? You got people still lying. Got people lying more today than I have ever seen in my lifetime. And they still talk about we're going to heaven. You can't go to heaven with the lie, because where did all the chaos and all that stuff begin? With the lie. So why you think that you're going to continue to lie and then you're going to heaven? We have to be real with ourselves. Heaven begins on earth. It tells us in the book too, bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. So if you bring the kingdom of heaven to earth, it was bound in heaven is bound on earth. Same thing. But we don't have that, as we can see. Look at all the chaos around us. That's it. So, ask that question today. If you want to go to heaven, does heaven begin when you get to heaven, or does heaven begin today when you're here? That's it. So, remember to like it, subscribe, share it with them. Every now and then, someone else needs some love and encouragement. Why are you laughing? Because I ended with that one?
No.
That's a really good question.
It is. I didn't say anything.
It's a question that we have to ask ourselves and realize, like, if you don't get to that point of perfect, be ye perfect. Not meaning that you don't trip over this thing in front of us and fall and hit your face or something, but knowing who you are. That's it.
Oh, the camera's running.